In the past few days, numerous reports are emerging that the CCP has officially prohibited the use of Apple phones in certain areas. On September 6th, insiders informed the Wall Street Journal that the CCP has directed central government officials to refrain from using iPhones and other foreign-branded devices during work hours or bringing them into offices. The following day, Bloomberg cited sources stating that the CCP intends to extend the iPhone ban to state-owned enterprises and government agencies. Moreover, the Financial Times UK disclosed that the prohibition has expanded to include employees at nuclear power plants and hospitals in remote areas. By September 8th, Nikkei News reported that the ban had further stretched to encompass products like the Apple Watch and AirPods, restricting them from being brought into workplaces. Due to China standing as a global manufacturing hub and the largest overseas market for Apple, this directive has triggered a substantial decline in Apple's stock prices. Sources revealed that the CCP had been imposing restrictions on the usage of iPhones by officials in several government agencies for years. However, the enforcement varied across regions and lacked clear documentation. The recent mandate has significantly widened the scope of these restrictions. Our research discovers a post on the Baidu Tieba forum from August 12th, where a user stated that their workplace had recently banned the use of Apple phones. Despite having bought an iPhone 14 Pro Max last November, the individual was informed on August 11th that the use of their phone would be prohibited starting August 14th. They were urged to switch to a domestic brand. This sudden news left her extremely distressed. In the message thread, there was a document issued by the Jiangsu Provincial Capital Liquor on September 15, 2020. It mandates employees using Apple phones to switch to domestic brands within 30 days, failing which they would be considered to have resigned voluntarily. Additionally, the directive explicitly prohibits the purchase of Apple mobile phones, with non-compliance leading to immediate termination. Moreover, an incentive is being offered for the purchase of Huawei mobile phones, with a subsidy of 15% on the market retail price. Furthermore, there were many documents online banning the use of iPhones and supporting the use of Huawei phones. Another company, Zhenjiang Chineng Electricity, issued a welfare notice on May 15, 2020, announcing financial incentives of 1,000 yuan for employees who purchase and use Huawei phones, while those opting for Apple phones will face a reduction in their annual bonus to a C tier. It is worth noting that this isn't an isolated incident. Similar situations occurred in 2018 following the arrest of Meng Wanzhou in Canada. Companies such as the Shenzhen-based Menpad technology company prohibited the purchase of American products by its employees, imposing fines for non-compliance and offering a 15% subsidy on the purchase of Huawei and ZTE phones. It is worth noting that the current banning of Apple products coincides with the recent launch of Huawei's Mate 60 Pro 5G smartphone. It also matches with the visit of the U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo to China. The smartphone, priced approximately $960 reportedly triggered a buying frenzy among consumers, with the first batch selling out online in a very short span of time. On September 5th, state-run Beijing Daily reported that the photo taken of Raimondo using the Huawei Mate 60 Pro stirred widespread discussion. On September 5th, state-run Beijing Daily reported that a photo taken of Raimondo using the Huawei Mate 60 Pro stirred widespread discussion. Chinese e-commerce platforms even initiated the sale of new phone cases adorned with Raimondo's portrait, accompanied by slogans such as, quote, "I am Raimondo, this time I am a Huawei spokesperson," and, quote, "Raimondo, Huawei phone ambassador." This is a clear taunt, showcasing Huawei's capability to launch new, independently developed products even after years of U.S. restrictions. Political analysts believe the subsequent ban on Apple products, which emerged on September 6th, is far from coincidental, viewing it as a calculated move by the Chinese government. Not only does this place Raimondo in a precarious position, but it also provides a golden opportunity for Huawei to reclaim market share from Apple. Following these developments, Apple's stock price plummeted at nearly 3% on September 7th, with a cumulative decline of about 7% over 2 trading days, wiping nearly $200 billion off its market valuation. On the morning of September 8th, Huawei officially began pre-sales of its Mate 60 Pro Plus and the new foldable Mate X5 following the successful launch of the Mate 60 Pro. Upcoming launches include additional models in the Mate 60 series. Huawei's sudden move triggered a surge in its concept stock prices. Concurrently, Chinese online platforms are vigorously promoting Huawei's triumph over U.S. technology restrictions through a widespread campaign, including a poll asking whether individuals plan to switch from iPhone to Huawei this year. Chinese media reports that 42% of the respondents are considering the switch, potentially intensifying market competition for Apple. But very quickly, the other side of Chinese consumers surfaced online. At 1 p.m. on September 12th, Apple held its autumn product launch, introducing 4 brand new iPhone 15 models, as well as the Apple Watch Series 9 and new AirPods. Surprisingly, on the eve of Apple's new product launch, related topics surged to the top of Weibo's hot search, attracting 200 million views. Moreover, nearly 60 million people engaged with the hashtag "Which iPhone 15 model will you buy?", where discussions regarding the iPhone 15 Pro adopting Grade 5 titanium and the potential removal of the mute switch became hot topics. This shows that the Chinese government's ban has not affected the Chinese consumers' affection for Apple phones. China has a large number of loyal Apple fans. Each year, during the launch of new Apple products, a large number of young people queue up to purchase them. Even during last year's pandemic, the enthusiasm for buying was not dampened. Analysis suggests that although Huawei launched their phone sales ahead of Apple's new product launch, Apple is unlikely to lose much of its high-end market share in China. In the country, possessing an Apple phone is seen as a status symbol. Unless the authorities impose extremely strict measures against Apple phone users, even a full sales ban won't prevent people from acquiring them through smuggling. This shows market dynamics in full swing. Furthermore, this round of bans is only aimed at some government employees. The general public is not prohibited from using them. Most officials own multiple phones, using Huawei for official business and iPhones for personal use. Hence, some argue that the real intention behind the Chinese government urging government employees to abandon iPhones might relate to the encryption settings. Previously, mainland media reported that the encryption settings on iPhones have obstructed anti-corruption investigations. In 2020, the China Economic Observer reported that CCP's judicial departments were rejected by Apple when they sought assistance trying to unlock suspects' iPhones during investigations. Similar situations have occurred in various places, including Zhejiang, Beijing, and Guangdong, where law enforcement often faces difficulties in unlocking iPhones of significant suspects involved in cases. Additionally, the newly released Huawei 5G phone, utilizing 7nm chips produced by China's largest chipmaker, SMIC, is suspected of bypassing U.S. export restrictions on semiconductor chips, raising alarms in the U.S. and prompting suggestions for an investigation. It is widely believed that U.S. sanctions or new restrictions might soon be implemented. Consequently, Huawei's ability to continue the production of this phone model remains uncertain. Although the efficacy of the CCP's ban remains questionable, the Wall Street Journal reported that the policy of prohibiting government employees from using iPhones might create a chilling effect on foreign brands operating in China, including Apple. Even if iPhone manufacturers cannot evade retaliation from China, virtually no foreign company in China is safe. Apple, a leader among U.S. tech hardware manufacturers, is deeply rooted in the Chinese market, still hosting its largest production base in the country. As reported, over 1 million people in a single Chinese city are employed in Apple's production lines or related positions. Against the backdrop of rising unemployment, excessively damaging such a significant domestic job creator is arguably not in China's best interest. Currently, Apple is actively shifting its production chain away from China, with many orders being redirected to India and Vietnam. In this context, further bans by the CCP would only accelerate Apple's withdrawal from the Chinese market. The CCP's ban on Apple closely mirrors its treatment of Tesla. On September 7th, a Chinese media personality reported that the Wuhan Railway Public Security Bureau issued a notice ordering immediate rectifications of internal security risks at the Wuhan train station. This directive came after the discovery that Tesla electric cars were accessing the facility, violating regulations that prohibit foreign-owned, smart, interconnected vehicles from entering sensitive locations. The notice, dated September 4, 2023, underscored that this was not the first time Tesla had faced such issues.
My Tesla is licensed by the government. It's a new energy vehicle allowed on the roads. Don't touch my phone, no physical contact. I bought this car through official channels in the country. I paid my taxes. I paid the fees. This charging station is developed by the national power grid for all citizens to use. Why can't I charge here? Please tell me, which law or regulation is this based on? You guys need to enforce the law, but first, you gotta do it legally.
In the previous month, a sign at the Yueyang airport in Hunan province had been spotted declaring, quote, "No entry for Tesla" in a secure area. While the sign was later removed, some sensitive zones continued to restrict Tesla vehicles from entering. This restriction mirrors policies set in place by local governments and agencies in Zhejiang and Guangxi provinces in May 2021, which mandated employees not to own Tesla cars and explicitly forbade staff from key departments from driving them into certain office areas. In March 2021, the CCP claimed that the restriction was necessitated due to the continuous recording capabilities of onboard cameras in Tesla cars. This could potentially collect sensitive data, including the vehicle's usage times and locations, along with contact lists from synced mobile phones. The CCP expressed concerns that this data could be sent back to the US, posing a threat to China's national security. However, Tesla CEO Elon Musk assured that the data collected would not be utilized for espionage activities. Simultaneously, the CCP has been voicing intentions to foster a more open and inclusive development environment. On September 2nd, at the 2023 China International Fair for Trade and Services, President Xi Jinping committed to expanding foreign business access to sectors including telecommunications, tourism, and legal services. This promise appears contradictory to the ongoing crackdown on several foreign enterprises, including imposing fines. Some commentators have pointed out that there are contradictions in the official policies of the CCP. Since this year, the CCP has been clamping down on several foreign companies, including global management consulting firm McKinsey, by imposing fines. These companies are essentially in the service sector, so why are they being suppressed while the Chinese government simultaneously claims to increase openness? On July 1st, the Chinese Communist Party implemented the counter-espionage law. Following this, on August 1st, the National Security Department issued a public social mobilization order through the Chinese social media platform WeChat, urging citizens to report spies and announced rewards for informants. The current period marks a troubling time for the Chinese economy. Despite anticipated post-pandemic economic recovery, China is grappling with a mounting housing debt crisis, sluggish consumption, and falling exports. The rising youth unemployment rate is exacerbated by a growing technology conflict with the US. Moreover, the worsening business climate in China has been discouraging foreign investments in the region. Recent data indicates an accelerated retreat of foreign investments from China. In the second quarter of 2023, foreign direct investment in the mainland plummeted to just $4.9 billion, marking a staggering 87% decline compared to the same period in 2022 and a 76% decline from the first quarter. Northbound Funds, a weather vane for foreign investment, offloaded over $12 billion in assets in August, setting a new record for monthly net sales. Political commentator Li Lin believes that the CCP's strategy seems to be a deceptive investment scheme where overseas capitals are enticed to invest heavily initially. But once the Chinese government secures the investments, foreign companies slowly find their products facing various restrictions in China. Companies like Tesla and Apple have found themselves under increasing pressure, with potential exits from the Chinese market becoming exceedingly difficult and financially draining. In the end, if the companies exit and recoup their initial investments, they would also need to sell off their factories and equipment cheaply. He mentioned that for foreign businesses, extracting their earned money from China could prove to be highly challenging. Li warned, quote, "The more the CCP shouts openness, the more cautious investors should be, as they might be facing a potential investment scam." Liao Jinzhang, a Taiwanese businessman who has managed enterprises in China for over 2 decades, remarked that the Chinese Communist Party has never been one to uphold integrity, often resorting to any means necessary to achieve their objectives. Liao noted, quote, "What businessmen seek is a fair system and a free business environment, qualities fundamentally lacking in China." He added that there have been innumerable instances of companies facing severe setbacks. Taiwanese business circles concluded that the CCP has set a, quote, "foster, ensnare, and eliminate trap for foreign enterprises." Leveraging the vast Chinese market, the government attracts foreign companies to assist in enhancing its industrial capabilities, only to ruthlessly cast them aside once they are deemed no longer useful.